Hey, everybody. We're really excited to be with you tonight. This is the Synchrony crew joining you from around the country. We are also dispersed as we meet with you in these little boxes that we've gotten very used to during COVID. We're going to hopefully have a really engaging session with y'all today. We want to definitely make sure that we cover the topic of engaging on campus as you think about being a top candidate, as you think about this fall recruiting process, whether you're a freshman all the way to a senior. We want to make sure we're helping you to the best of our ability. So we'll use most of the time today to talk to you about that. On the front end here, I'll do a quick screen share. Just tell you a little bit about who we are and what we do. So I think I should be showing my screen. Brett, give me a thumbs up if you could see this, just so I know. All right, great. We'll do a little bit on the front end, but we'll jump right into our panel discussion. Will be the majority of our conversation as we go through. So today we've got some really great folks that have been on our early careers program at Synchrony. So you'll get to meet Luis, Brett, and Sydney in just a few moments. Brett and Sydney are both on program, and Luis is a recent grad of our program. So they'll be able to give you some live context, but they're also very close to campus recruiting. They were in your shoes not that long ago. So we're going to let them do most of the talking today, but on the front end, I'm here to just give you a little bit of context. So you're like, hey, who's that Synchrony group? What is that Synchrony company? I've never heard of y'all before. So I'm going to give you the 10,000 foot view. Y'all have that thing called Google. So we're not going to bore you and try to run you through exactly who we are or what we do to the detail level. I'm going to give you the 10,000 foot view of what we are. So, as you think about it, Synchrony, if you go into your wallet and you open up your wallet and there's a credit card in there, that's our business. We make that plastic for a lot of different partners across the country. So we're a premier financial services company. We do custom financing programs for a lot of big name brands. As you think about all the different partners that we work with, Amazon, Verizon, PayPal, Lowe's, TJ Maxx, a lot of the big consumer brands that you know and see every day and interact with every single day, we are working with their teams every day to deliver credit to their customers. And we do it across all different industries. So as you think about any time you want to go out and do something in the world, you want to engage with, with credit or to help finance something, we're there. Synchrony is the solution to help you do so. So in theory and what we are, that premier financial services institution focused on customer credit, Fortune 500 company, pretty large, 16,000 plus employees. So a really big population and over 68 million cardholders. So definitely do a ton of business out in the space. But as I mentioned, we work with some of the biggest brands in the world. So you get to sit on some of these client portfolios, work with these companies on a daily basis, while also driving some really great products that Synchrony builds internally in-house and some loyalty programs for these companies. So really, hopefully simplified approach as you go and do your research and want to learn more about us. I'm sure you can dive deeper and learn a lot more. But outside of what we do, who we are, we really are a values-driven organization. We like to, as you will get to know our folks today, we're pretty familial, we're pretty friendly, we get to know each other really well. We like to have a lot of fun at work. And that's really because we're a values-driven organization where we, if you look at these 6 values, they're really embedded in all the things that we do. A lot of times these are just words on a page, but as you listen to our speakers today, I think you'll see some of these things come to life. You'll hear it in their voices and in the stories that they tell, that they embody these values every single day. And it's something that's super important to us. In addition to that, I think I can't go, any further talking about Synchrony until I talk about kind of our commitment to kind of diversity and inclusivity. I think diversity is a great part of an organization, but I think we're super inclusive here. As you think about all the different things that we have to offer, we offer really great networks and a really great opportunity to engage with folks that either look, sound, or have similar backgrounds to you, or if they don't, gives you an opportunity to become a part of that conversation, to be involved with others around you, and to be, in different places in the organization where you get to have a voice, you get to be heard, you get to be your authentic self, which I think is a really important thing when you talk about corporate America and becoming a part of an organization. So definitely want to highlight that we do have a really amazing program here where we're committed to not only a great diverse company, but also a very inclusive one that allows you to be who you really want to be. As we go to campus as a company, we have some really great programs that we'll offer. I'm sure we'll talk about this a lot as we get through the process. And, Brett, Luis, and Sydney's opportunities, they've all been in these programs, so they can tell you more about them and their experiences as they talk about being a candidate and how you can stand out. But we offer 3 unique opportunities for college students. If you're a sophomore, we offer a 4-day immersion experience in which you can come, build your resume, really kind of get to know who we are as a company, get to learn our culture, kind of test drive us. And if you do really well there, we try to get you into an internship position. for our juniors, we offer a 10-week summer internship program. That position is 10 weeks, fully funded. We have fully funded housing options, housing stipends. So if you have to relocate anywhere in the country, we cover that for you. You have dedicated leaders over the summer, social activities, networking, all that fun stuff. So really great junior internship, which leads to a full-time, what we call our business leadership program. It's a 2-year rotational program. So if you're interested in really becoming a consultant, learning about different areas of the business and really getting a deep domain expertise without being locked into one job when you graduate, our BLP program is really a great opportunity for you all to do some research on our rotational program. And I'll wrap the Vince spiel up front. You guys can learn. I talk really fast. I want to get all the boring stuff out of the way. So if you're interested in Synchrony, if we've piqued your interest throughout today and you're interested in more, we have 10 functional areas. I think we've got a spot for almost anybody that's interested in joining a company in a different role for all those folks. So as you go and do some research on us or get to know us a little bit more, there's a lot of different areas if you're interested in learning more that you can get involved in, that your background, I'm sure, will be a good fit for. And really, I think that's a great transition as I stop sharing and pull open my visual so I can see my panelists. As you start thinking about recruiting and where you want to go, I think Brett, Luis, and Sydney, you'll tell us a little bit about your experiences. So I'm going to open up our panel and just have you introduce yourselves. Tell us a little bit about you, where you went to school, how you got to Synchrony. Tell us a little bit. This is about standing out in your career. I want to hear your fun fact today is like how you stood out as a candidate on campus. Like, what did you do during your career search to stand out? So I'm going to go Brett, Luis, Sydney in that order, and Brett will let you kick us off.
All right, sounds good. Thanks so much for the warm welcome, Vince. Thank you to all the participants for joining. We're all extremely excited to be here and engage with you all. So like Vince said earlier, my name is Brett Powell. I'm originally from Lansing, Michigan. And attended North Carolina and graduated from North Carolina A&T State University, which is located in Greensboro, North Carolina. My fun fact or what it was that helped me, get noticed by Synchrony and be a part of their internship and full-time program. I think it was my ability to explain my leadership over the years throughout my on-campus engagement. I had a lot of leadership positions on campus, was a part of a lot of different organizations on campus, and really talked a lot about some of that experience while I was having my interview for Synchrony. And then also just from the standpoint, I think a big part of the interview that was a big positive for me was the cultural fit. Synchrony, like Vince said, is very focused on diversity and inclusion, but also making sure that the candidates and the talent that we bring in to the organization fits with us culturally, as far as, being honest, being bold, becoming more comfortable being able to speak up and things like that. And I was able to display some of those characteristics in my interview. And so I believe that's, how I'm blessed enough to be where I am today.
Thanks, Brett. So everyone, my name is Luis Gutierrez, and I went to school at the University of Central Florida in Orlando, Florida. Was born and raised in Florida, kind of went to school there. And kind of similar to Brett, what I did to really stand out as a candidate on campus was being a student leader in different business organizations on campus. And then I'd say as well, kind of my relationship management with Synchrony employees when they would come out to our various events that we held on campus. So I was a part of an organization similar to Way Up, kind of focused on underrepresented students and, just trying to break into corporate America. So Synchrony has an office in Altamont Springs, which is just outside of Orlando. So they would come out pretty often to some of our events and, host similar workshops to this, where, they give overviews about Synchrony, different business, professional development tips. So I just kind of grew, relationship there with one of the main contacts that we had at that Orlando office. And, she quickly became a mentor of mine. And as I went throughout campus, I met her early on in my freshman year, and just, going throughout campus, keeping that relationship with her, just kind of really helped me in the recruitment process. I didn't do the internship or the externship, so I came in straight full-time, but I definitely just, attribute that to that relationship that I built with, that Synchrony employee who's a mentor today. And then just an overview of my career path at Synchrony. Again, joined the business leadership program, so did the full 2 years, and just recently graduated back in July. So off program now, an alumni of the program, and now in our product organization within Synchrony. So very excited to be with you all here today, and just get to share a little bit, a couple tips of ours as you navigate your careers in college.
Hey guys, hi, my name is Sydney Jackson. Well, first of all, thank you for joining. So happy to have you all here and so excited to talk to you guys on the panel today. But my name is Sydney Jackson. I am originally from Houston, Texas, and I graduated from Howard University, the illustrious Howard University in 2021. And I was a marketing major there. And so I actually was a part of the internship program, and now I'm a full-time BLP here at Synchrony. So as you can see, I love the company, so I chose to stay. But one thing that I would say as advice to stand out as an applicant, I would say is to, along with what Brett and Louise were saying, is stay true to who you are and don't try and be somebody that you're not. I would say as an interviewee and someone who is researching the interviews and like all of that, I think it's kind of easy to see who would be a great fit for us culturally and who wouldn't be. And so I would just say stay true to you are whenever you are interviewing, and be your authentic self. So I think that's one big thing that I would say, along with what Brett and Louise were saying. Along with that, also maintaining networking relationships. Don't be afraid to reach out to somebody, ask them questions, because at the end of the day, they're already in the door and they're here to help you to get in the door as well. So yeah.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. Quick intro on me. I'm Vince Bond. I just started talking and didn't say who I was. So I'm Vince Bond. I'm the VP of Leadership Programs and Early Careers here at Synchrony. So I run everything from our campus recruiting teams all the way through the 2-year program that you're hearing a lot about through our panelists here. I've been able to see all of them from basically minute 1 when they joined the company to where they are now. So they're not usually this official. We're going to break them in for you guys a little bit, have some fun with them as we chat. They're doing a great job kind of kicking us off, but I want to get into their stories a little bit and pick on them. So Brett, I'm going to go over to you first. My first question, I think we'll start with like the front end, like career fairs, like when we first meet employers. I think so many students are like, they fear or think that recruiters are going to like judge them as an employee. You've probably been on both sides. I've seen you go to recruiting events and you're coming off a campus, right? So can you talk a little bit about that? Like, that fear of engaging with an employer, like how should students be thinking about those conversations? How can they kind of combat some of those fears? Like what kind of advice do you have to actively start engaging with employers and engaging with them in a meaningful way?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question, Vince. There's a lot to unpack there as far as, being prepared for career fairs and things like that. I would say the first thing is it's okay to acknowledge that there is some fear with, meeting new people or feeling that you're going to be evaluated. And I think you should kind of embrace that and understand like, hey, you're going to have to kind of step out on a limb or, put yourself kind of in an uncomfortable situation. In order to, obtain employment, for years to come. But I would say that would be my biggest thing is to first have a plan, right? So when I would go to career fairs, when I was in school, I would first see who's all going to be there and really analyze what companies I was interested in speaking with. So I think that's the first thing, and understanding who those companies are, doing a little bit of research before you get to the career fair. Like Vince showed you, the values of the company, what employment opportunities that you have found already that might align with what you're interested in doing. And then, I would usually start with a couple companies that might not have been my top choices, right? So when I did my career fair, Synchrony was, high on the list for me. So I think I started with 2 other companies first, just to kind of get my feet wet, get a little comfortable with my elevator pitch, and telling a little bit about my story and who I am. And, by the time I had made it over to the Synchrony booth, I was comfortable and, a little bit more prepared to talk about, what my experience was and why I'd be a good candidate, for their internship program and ultimately their full-time program as well. And then I think the last, advice that I'll give for that is I would always like to think that the opportunity that I have at hand to have all these different, companies right in front of me, and that if I can just, take one step to get over that fear, the reward that will come, you know, in terms of networking connections or an internship or a full-time position far outweighs that fear. And that's something that, you know, regardless of your journey, where you all go, that'll always be an ongoing thing. There's going to be things that are uncomfortable, but usually that's where your biggest growth comes from. So really it's, you know, just taking that first step in acknowledging, yes, this is a fearful situation, but you know, taking it head on and understanding that, you know, this could be, you know, these conversations that you all are having during career fairs could really be life-changing. And then also understanding, regardless of what you do, you know, there's going to be some things that are uncomfortable, but, you know, just got to take that first step. And, you know, as you do it more often, it'll become more and more comfortable. And then as you move on to more challenging things, you're already accustomed to, you know, if that makes sense, being comfortable, being uncomfortable.
No, but I think that's great advice. I think you mentioned one thing, especially like a career event that I always think as a recruiter and someone that's been recruiting for a bunch of years, right? Y'all have one of these in your pocket, cell phone, right? If you walk up to a booth, you should never be able to say, oh, I don't know what your company does, right? Just step back, Google the company, read about them for 3 minutes, and then at least you have a talking narrative that you can go up and say, hey, I know Synchrony's in the credit card business. Heard you had some really cool things going on in the news right now. Share some of that. It shows your interest. So I think that's a really great tip. But also, as you talk about confronting fear, I think there's some really great stuff in there. So thanks for sharing that. Sydney, I'm going to go to you next. And as you think about like preparing for these students prepare for fall, right? What separates, like, when you talk about a candidate, like when we're engaging with a candidate, either on campus, whether it's during a program, during an internship, during an interview, what do you think separates a good candidate? I'm gonna use air quotes for a good candidate from a great candidate. Like what kind of attributes do they have? What kind of things do they bring to every interaction? Like what kind of things have you seen in your experience interviewing or being in that space that help separate the good from the great?
Yeah, no, of course, that's a great question. I think that some things that I have like taken aback to really like noticed over the years, something that would separate the two. And I know it's something that you both kind of touched on, would be researching the company that you are really trying to interview for. So it's hard to kind of just walk up to a booth or try an interview for a company that you really don't know that much information on. So I think as somebody who is interviewing, I think they will notice a candidate that actually understands what's happening in the company, being able to ask questions and really understand the lefts and the rights and really have that engaging casual conversation if you really understand what the job really requires. So I think that's my biggest thing. And then along with that, I would really consider what makes you unique. So as your own individual self, I think trying to figure out the qualities that you have that can really separate yourselves from other candidates, or maybe experiences that you have that you can maybe talk about in an interview that would really separate you from other candidates, that would really create that casual conversation between you and the interviewee, because you really want it to be as casual as possible. I know it's really easy to get nervous when you are interviewing and kind of feel like the whole world is just coming up upon you whenever you're interviewing. So you really want to create that casual Q&A type flow between you and the person that is interviewing you. So those are some things that I kind of would give as advice to others to kind of separate the two, for sure.
So, I think that's absolutely right. I think, as you go into these conversations, right, being authentically you, doing that research, coming prepared. But I think like there's some non-negotiables as I think about starting into, right, being a positive person, having a positive outlook, having a smile on your face, walking up with, you don't have to have like Vince level energy, because like I'm a lot, right? But you have to have a level of energy when you walk up, right? Because you have to differentiate yourself, right? When you walk up to somebody, Sydney, to your point, you have to be uniquely you, because there's going to be like, once you walk away from a career fair or walk away from an employer, 5 more people are going to come 5 minutes after you, right? So how are they going to remember you? A lot of times that smile, that body language, that energy that you bring, or that positivity or engagement that you bring into a conversation is truly going to differentiate yourself. So I think, Sydney, you outlined it in a really great way as we think about kind of meshing your personality with your research to come with the best possible version of you, which I think is really great. So I think the kind of meeting people, engaging is one side. We could talk a little bit about like interviewing, this hybrid. We're going into like a hybrid fall where there's going to be some virtual components, whether it's virtual interviewing or virtual engagement. So Luis, I want to go here for you. You actually started some of your program virtually. You've had a lot of experience there. I know you've done a lot of work with this. So let's talk in the virtual interviews, right? Many companies are going to move away from like in-person interviews, even if they're doing on-campus recruiting. So, sometimes it's harder. It's a unique challenge to make an impression. A lot of students like to make an impression in person. They feel a little more comfortable there versus in that virtual setting. So can you share with me some of your tips and tricks, whether that's networking or interviewing remotely or virtually, and how you would navigate that?
Yeah, definitely. And that's a good point. Now with the pandemic changed everything, and companies are moving more to like that hybrid or virtual model. So, I know virtual interviews can definitely feel a little bit awkward, but there's always a good way to make that impression as a candidate. So I'd say, just to kind of start off with the basics, is to do well in your interview is the location. So just make sure you're in a quiet area where you're going to be free of distractions and can really focus on the interview, so that you can both hear the interviewer and they can hear you. You don't want to be in like a busy coffee shop at like lunchtime or in the morning. You don't want to do that, right? So you want to make sure you're focused in a quiet, clean area. Ensure that you have a clean background, and if it's not, blur it out. If you didn't clean your room the day before, just go ahead and create blur that background. But I'd say the main point is just location. Make sure it's clean, it's quiet, you're going to be free of distractions, and ensure you have a strong internet connection. You don't want the internet going out halfway through the interview, and then you have those technical issues. But that's one the basics there. Then I'd say dress up as if it was a real interview in person. You don't have to wear the full suit or tie or a full blazer, but a nice button-up shirt, or if you're going to a blouse that you would wear to a real interview. I'm a big believer on when you look good, you feel good. So just being dressed up, even if it's virtual, it's just going to give you that extra boost of confidence. And then from there, that's kind of basics. And then going into the actual interview, I know kind of Brett and Sydney talked about it a little bit earlier, but research beforehand on the company, and then as well as on your interviewer. So that's what's great about the virtual world now, where especially within the company here, where it's like when we can network, we can look up the people ahead of time, kind of learn about their background. So when you're interviewing with the company, if they do give you the name of that interviewer, make sure to research beforehand. Look them up on LinkedIn, learn about their background, maybe where they went to school, maybe organizations or clubs they might be a part of, just anything that you're going to be able to make a connection with them. That goes for, interviewing virtually as well as networking virtually. I think that's been a huge tip that's helped me out throughout my career here at Synchrony. And lastly, I'd say bring the energy and be personable. As Vince mentioned, like when it's in person, it's very easy to do that, right? You can definitely give off that positive energy and vibe, but you can also do it through the screen. So it's bring the energy, come with a smile, share that positive energy through the screen. Try to make it as personable as possible. As Sydney mentioned, you try to turn it into a conversation where you can. So you log on to like, hey Vince, how are you doing today? How's your day been? How was your weekend? If it's like a Thursday, Friday, anything fun for the weekend? Anything planned? So just try to be able to turn it into a conversation when you can. I know as Brett and Sydney mentioned, it's a little tough, but it can be done. So just to wrap up, main points, nice quiet area, dress the part, research beforehand, and just make sure to bring the energy.
I think that's right. I think a lot of times, whether it's an interview, if it's an info session, right? There's going to be some times where you're going to be in a big room. You got to raise your hand. You got to be like noticed, right? I think that's a big piece. I think interviews is one piece virtually where you're going to kind of lock in and, kind of be there. But if you're a virtual info session, you've got to be asking a question. You got to be raising your hand. You got to be engaging, right? That's going to make you separate from other folks that are just going to sit with their camera off. So I think those are kind of the non-negotiables. And, Brett, as someone that started their career virtually, you're also our resident sales BLP on the call here. And I think you do a lot of really great work kind of building relationships, and you had to do that a lot in a virtual setting. Is there any other advice that you'd give on top of what's already shared on like how to build a virtual network, how to network in that space in a little more of a hybrid environment? Just curious if you had anything else on top that you might want to add.
Yeah, absolutely. Like Luis touched on, the pandemic definitely changed the way that we work. But things that I've really enjoyed about working virtually is that there's now no longer geographical constraints around networking, right? So when I was going through my internship, we did our internship totally virtual. And I did my internship from my college dorm for 10 weeks. And the positive thing about that was that I was able to connect with people in Synchrony at our headquarters in Connecticut, and also able to connect with people at the various offices that we have at Synchrony in California and Texas and here in North Carolina. So I think that was like really huge for me as far as how I was able to connect and reach people throughout the company. And as we began to go more towards a hybrid model where I would be able to visit some offices, it was really clear to see when I would go into the office and I would say, wow, I know, half the people here, just because I had the opportunity to set up 15, 20 minutes with them, during my internship, just to hear about their story. And that's the other thing, like people love to talk about themselves. And during my internship, I would set up 15, 20 minutes with various people just to hear about who they are and their journey. And then, ask really insightful questions and things like that. And you want people to feel your engagement even through the screen, like Luis talked about. And then lastly, what I'll say, just to add on, is everyone that I talked to during my internship, I would never leave a conversation without asking, who else should I connect with, right? So that's the easiest way to, before you know it, you'll know 50 people at the company just from, originally having 10 people that you wanted to connect with. And just, as you wrap up the conversation, hey, it was great talking to you today. Could you give me a few names of people that I should connect with here at the company? And so those are all, really great, things and tips and tricks that I use, to network in a virtual environment. I see we have a few questions in the chat here, Vince. I didn't know if you want to.
Yeah, we're gonna grab a few of those and we'll kind of plug in there. I think we talk a little bit about I'm going to, let's see here. Let me pull this up. All right, so the question is, can you please elaborate a little bit more on how to remove awkwardness of virtual interviews? A lot of companies now have interviews that are pre-recorded. So as an applicant, I'm just recording my answers to generic. So I'm going to answer this first and give you kind of my take. And then, Brett, Louise, Sydney, we'll kind of do an impromptu, kind of come off here. Because I think if there's questions that the students have, we can spiel our questions all day. But if y'all have questions, throw them in the Q&A, throw them in the chat. We'll just start answering questions. We're all in on that. So, when we talk about awkwardness and especially pre-recorded interviews, I think this is a very bucking trend, because a lot of employers want to say, hey, we're going to get you an interview one way or the other. So just talk to the camera. We'll assess that, and then we'll get back to candidates. So what I will tell you is, with those interviews, so many students think they have to be perfect. And I often say that's not really authentic. I would tell you, as you go into pre-recording interviews, there's a few things you can do to help you remove some of that awkwardness. Number one, take a picture of a friend, a family member, or put a mirror behind your camera. So you're talking at a person. You're not talking at a camera. Sometimes it's hard to look at the camera and have a conversation. When you're looking at yourself or looking at someone, a picture of someone that you know or that you trust, that's going to allow you to at least have more of a more social interaction or more realistic conversation with something that's going on. So I think sometimes with pre-recordeds, right? So many students are like, let me write down my answer. Let me put Post-it notes all over my screen to try to script my answer. No, go in, talk from your heart, talk from your mind, definitely be yourself. But if you're going into that, I would say try to create a way for you to engage with something other than your camera. That will help you get rid of some of that, I think, awkwardness or strangeness. But a lot of times when there's a question there, as I phrase those answers, I would start with saying, I would just say that if the question was, tell me about a time you had to lead a team, I'd say, I would start that question with, leading a team is really important for me as I think about my campus experience. I'm a leader in the Student Government Association. So you kind of start with the question. So at least you're prefacing yourself, you're setting yourself up, and then you're starting the conversation. So those are some of my tips and tricks for some of those pre-recorded interviews that you might be seeing, and how to remove some of the awkwardness there. So Nathan, it's a great question. Any other panelists have anything to add there?
You're just on, Vince.
Listen, I try my best. I've been doing this for a few minutes. My first time. So don't say anything else. We'll have a few more questions. As we mentioned, like we want to answer your questions. So throw in the Q&A, throw in the chat. We want to start answering your questions. I've got like a ton of like Vince things that are spinning in my brain. But we'd rather answer your questions live and on demand. We got plenty of time for that. So please, 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 as we go through, make sure to throw things in the chat or in the Q&A.
Yeah, we got
For my next one. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, no, we just have another one here. I'd like to know what you most enjoy during your daily work life, and what is the challenges that you are facing, and if there is any mentorship within the program or the company.
Listen, I think that's going to be, I'm going to give all three of you like a minute and a half. It sounds like a favorite part about BLP and like, who's your mentor at Synchrony? So I want a minute and a half on favorite part of BLP, like what's it like to be a BLP or an intern or an extern? And number two, like mentorship, like how's that work for you in the company?
I could start because why not? So first question, let's just break it up in sections. So what do I enjoy most about my daily work life? I think it's the fact that right now in my rotation, because BLP is a rotational program, right now in my rotation, I'm on the incubation team, which is a team that is based on, it's almost like a tech-based RAN team that's really focused on incubating new products, coming up with new things, new and innovative things for Synchrony. And so what I love most about that team is the fact that I'm learning a lot every single day. I think with entry-level jobs, fresh out of college, it's really easy to be in that situation or in a spot to where you are just doing busy work and you are just doing just like the tasks that nobody else wants to do. And so what I really do enjoy about like my daily work life is the fact that I'm learning something new every single day and I'm actually doing meaningful work, meaningful projects that I'm actually seeing being sought out through the company. And so seeing that and seeing things that I'm doing on my daily work day actually being sought out is probably the most like rewarding thing for me when it comes to my daily work life. So that's something that I do enjoy. What is the challenges that you're facing? I would say challenges that I'm facing when it comes to work is definitely, I would say, I don't really have that many challenges, but I would say when it comes to challenges, I would say just like going through the learning curve of switching from one rotation to the next rotation. I think that we have the model of the 1 year rotations and then 2 6-month rotations. I would say kind of switching from two different roles. I would say that would probably be the most challenging, I would say, is having to learn a whole entire new role, having to network with new people, meeting a whole entire new team. So that's kind of something that I would say was somewhat challenging whenever I first started. And if there's any mentorship training, so mentorship, that's a great one. Great question. I think Synchrony is the perfect place to, really gain mentors and really have the opportunity to really meet people that can really further yourself professionally and personally. So for me personally, my first mentor at Synchrony, actually, she was my first assignment leader when I was an intern. And her name is Katie Hughes. She's an amazing woman. I just happened to, she just happened to be my assignment leader and we just clicked. And ever since then, we just had a running one-on-one for the entire summer for 10 weeks. So we just grew to be somewhat close and I still keep in touch with her to this day. And she really helped me get my current role that I have on the product incubation team. So I think that mentorship is really important. And I think that also flows into the diversity networks that we have here at Synchrony. We have diversity networks, for everyone. We have I'm a part of the women's network. I'm a part of the Black Experiences Network now. And so I think with that, I think being a part of a diversity network really broadens your mentorship and your networking circle. So you're able to network with so many people on a daily basis. There are so many people that really do care about your professional growth and your professional development as an individual. And everyone at Synchrony is really here rooting for you. So I think that's one thing that I have noticed with working at Synchrony is the fact that there are a lot of mentorship opportunities. It's just which ones do you want to take and what route do you want to take? Because everyone is really here rooting for you. And so, yeah, that's my long-winded answer.
Awesome.
I can breathe.
Love that. Luis, Brett, anything you'd add in terms of best parts of being a BLP, daily life, mentorship, anything you want to put on top?
Good. I think Sid hit it.
Yeah, I'll add on a couple things. Sid did a great job for sure. And kind of just to piggyback off a little what Sid said, just a really big surprise for me joining Synchrony and being in a corporate space was I didn't really know how creative or innovative I'd be able to be joining the program, and that's something that I enjoy daily. about my role and the various projects that I get to work on is a lot of the things that we get to do at Synchrony require a lot of creativity, a lot of innovation, and really thinking outside the box. And when we talk about inclusion in the workspace, we each have unique experiences that kind of wire the way we think about how we solve problems. So being able to go through my, thought process when it comes to problem solving and go through my creative process of how do we fix this, or how do we come up with a new way to connect with consumers, or how do we come up with better ways to connect with students. Those are all things that are really enjoyable about what we're all able to work on at Synchrony. A challenge for sure with a hybrid structure is, staying connected for sure. I know early on as I was starting my internship, and even when I started the full-time position, it was very easy to, step in my room for work, and I'll be sitting at the laptop, from 9 a.m. to 4:30, and look up and it's halfway through the day and you haven't even stepped outside of your room yet. So that's definitely difficult, but a lot of resources on how to work through those things. We oftentimes talk about work-life balance at Synchrony. We have a lot of resources around mental well-being, physical well-being. Synchrony does a reimbursement program for any physical training and things like that. We have wellness coaches at Synchrony, which is a great mental well-being tool. So I would say that's a big challenge, but we have so many resources at our fingertips here at, being an employee at Synchrony, which are, all really good things to take advantage of, to work through some of those challenges.
It's awesome. Listen, Brett's putting on his best sales hat, guys. He's selling Synchrony hard right now. I'm loving this. And I think as I look at our chat here, I see a few other things. So I'm going to go to Sahar. You had a question. I'll try to take lead again. And then for my other BLPs, we'll let you filter in. It says, what's your advice on regarding time utilization when looking for a job? Should we put 100% of our time into the searching process, or will it be better to dedicate some time to completing professional certificates to differentiate ourselves from other candidates? I think it's a fascinating question. It's something that I often think about, and when I advise students and talk to students, just like anything else in life, searching for a job, interviewing, all that stuff it requires training. It's like a sport. You have to go out and you have to work on it. So what I would tell you is, if you are not dedicating time every week to recruiting, to interviewing, to practice, to all that, and I don't think there's an even split of that. I wouldn't do it 100% searching, because if you're just searching and you're not networking, you're not practicing interviewing, you're not practicing your elevator pitch, if you're not spreading yourself and kind of getting yourself fully kind of 360 prepared for recruiting, you're going to hit some snags along the way. So what I would say is, every week, and if you as a candidate can commit, I'm going to give you this, 3 hours a week. And it doesn't have to be 3 straight hours. It doesn't have to be an hour each day. It could be 20 minutes here, 20 minutes there, but on your calendar, whether it's Outlook, Google, whatever, start putting blocks and saying, I'm going to focus on searching on Handshake for 40 minutes on Mondays. I'm going to do my elevator pitch and my research for companies for an hour on Tuesdays. On Wednesdays, I've got a free block. I'm going to go out and do, I'm going to make sure I'm focusing on my resume and making sure that's ready. If you commit yourself 3 to 4 hours a week, especially during the fall when there's so much going on, and you be very regimented on that, and you think about all the things that you need to be working on, right? I think that's going to really help you in your career search, because you'll be, if you spend 40 or 30 minutes just on LinkedIn or on Handshake looking for jobs, you're going to cover a lot of ground in that period of time. You're going to be able to get a lot done, a lot more than you think you'd be able to get done. And if you do it every week, imagine 3, 4, 5 weeks in a row, that's a lot of time that compiles over time. So I think being regimented and having those times set aside and making sure that you're investing in yourself, that's really going to help you when you start thinking about, how am I going to elevate? How am I going to be a better recruit? How am I going to tell my story in a better way? So those are the things that I would think about. Always good if you want to add some time to get certificates or spend some time in study. But I do think focusing on yourself and your career search and how you go out and engage with employers is really important. So that's how I think you should be. I don't think there's a split. I wouldn't give you like a 5%, 10%, 20% breakdown. I'd say depending on each person, you have different needs, but I would definitely say you want to give yourself a set period of time. And I'm going to give you the best practice of 3 to 4 hours. And I know it seems like a lot, but take out some of the random things, especially during that fall semester. It's really going to help you in the long run. So that's how I would think through that. Brett, Luis, I know I rambled. Anything I missed? Anything you'd like to add?
No, I was gonna say I agree. As Vince mentioned, just putting in the work every week. As a student, I was part of this business club that kind of focused on professional development. So they actually kind of forced us to do it. It was part of a program we had. And still there's like a mentorship program. So every week we have to do about an hour or two of just kind of interview prep, going through mock interviews, just practicing different questions, and then as well as reaching out to different kind of employers. So just practicing that on LinkedIn, like, hey, just sending invites, and then if we were able to get a call schedule, just having that informational session. So it was something that we kind of were not forced to do, but kind of forced to do, but it definitely helped. And this goes a long way, just putting in that work weekly. And as Vince mentioned, if you do put in the work, then you'll get the results. So just I'd say as a student, definitely going back as a student, would definitely just do that a little bit more often if I could.
Yeah. The next one, Cindy, I'm going to go to you. There's a question from Collis from FAMU. What are opportunities for advancement within the company? So you've gone through a sophomore extern, is all of our offerings you've gone through. So you've obviously seen advancement in the BLP program and early careers. So I'm going to have you talk a little bit about, like, in your early career, when you go campus to careers, what that looks like at Synchrony. And then Luis, I might piggyback to you as you've kind of rolled off program, talk about what that looks like for you now. So we'll go 1-2 punch there. Cindy, if you can kind of talk through your experience and kind of how you saw advancement and how you think that's going to help you in the long term, kind of going and converting within a company from place to place and seeing how that might help you build your network or help you internally. And then, Luis, will come to you.
Yeah, of course. And I think that it's a great question, first of all. And I think that I'm going to start off with the first thing that you mentioned. The last thing that you mentioned, Vince, was building your network. So I think that there wasn't a lot of recruiting from Synchrony on my campus at Howard. So I kind of went out of my way to do research on the company because I found them on Handshake. And when I did research, I found people on LinkedIn, and I decided to reach out to certain people, which led me to learning about the externship program that we offered. So when I became a part of the externship opportunity, I started to realize, okay, wait, this is a great company. I want to return for the internship the next year. So I made it a point of myself to actually go out of my way to really network with a lot of people that I met when I was on campus during that weekend. So I really made it a point to go out, introduce myself, ask the questions, try to ask the tough questions, really seem, interactive with the things that we were doing, which was, internship. I mean, the externship is a great opportunity. So we were having a lot of fun, but in that, I think that I made it a point of myself to really create connections with people that I knew could really further my career, because I knew this is a place that I wanted to be at. So during the externship, I made connections with a lot of people in the marketing organization because I knew I wanted to be in marketing. And in those connections, one person that actually interviewed me for my internship actually was a person that I actually connected with. So it just happened to work out perfectly. So in regards to career development, I moved to the internship after I got that offer. And I could kind of just see the transition between the externship and the internship, actually being able to immerse myself into the company and create those actual meaningful connections with people because I knew I was going to be here for the summer. So there was another chip on my back because I wanted to return for the full-time opportunity. So of course I really had to dive even deeper in those relationships and actually dive deeper into the projects that I was doing to really, prove myself and prove my worth to the company that I really deserve to be here. So with that being said, does that answer your question? I'm not sure who asked it, if that really helps or not. So
I think it's a good start. And then,
Yeah.
Luis, I'm going to come to you. You've gone through a 2-year rotational program. You kind of finished, you rolled off program. So when you think about like career progression at Synchrony, right? You're actively involved. You're obviously doing really great. What kind of things would you say, are you're looking forward to when you think about not just being in the leadership program, but coming off that program? How does it prepare you? What kind of things you think you're going to have in front of you now that you have gone beyond our 2-year rotational program and you're out in the business?
Yeah, definitely. I'd say one, the BLP does do a great job of preparing us for, life after BLP. So when you're on program, again, you kind of learn the foundations within your specific functions. So similar to Sid, I was in the marketing function. So I completed the 2 years within marketing and got to see kind of different areas there. And, was quickly able to find out what I liked and what I didn't. And then when it came to, rolling off program, I knew that I wanted to I knew that I wanted to kind of get out of traditional marketing and go more into like the product organization that we built out about a year ago. And, luckily there were some openings within our product org and was able to kind of network my way into the role that I wanted. So I'd say just like having that network foundation that we can build when we're on program, again, just being able to reach out to different leaders, learn about, different teams and different projects. I, was able to find out like, hey, I really like this product org and what they're kind of building out. So in terms of career advancement, just kind of moving, not really functions, because it still kind of falls under marketing, but knowing that Synchrony does value us, getting those cross-functional experiences and being able to take your career where you kind of want to, is what I really liked about program. And then, looking forward, as Vince mentioned, I think, just the opportunities, when you come off program, now you're an assistant vice president, you have a lot more job responsibilities, a lot more visibility as well, within the company, depending on your the team you're on. I think I'm on a pretty, small team that has a lot of visibility. So that's what's really exciting for me. It's our partner integration teams, or it's our partner integration team that focuses on kind of bringing in a new business for Synchrony. So for me, I just know like having that visibility that I do have is really just going to go a long way, where I'm hoping to be able to advance a little bit quicker than is kind of expected, or when you come off program. But I think the BLP does a great job of preparing you for off program. And then once you're off program, it's kind of up to you to take your career into your own hands, where, you don't have that structure of program, and it's not as easy to get time on people's calendar anymore. I mean, it still is within Synchrony, it is, but just a little tougher. You kind of got to have a reason. It's like, oh, why are you having 15 minutes with me? But everyone's still pretty open to it. So I'd say now, once your career's in your own hands, it's a little bit, that's what makes it exciting to me. It's like, yeah, like program was fun and it was nice having that structure, but now knowing that it's up to me to really advance my career at the pace that I want to, and that it's doable is what's most exciting to me.
Yeah. Luis, what I think you highlight there, and what I'd bring on top for like program and then beyond, right? So when we think about BLP, right, our goal is to accelerate you. It's an accelerator program to get you off campus. So when Luis talks about like he's an assistant vice president now, right? To be an assistant vice president in a bank, it's typically 5 to 8 years experience, right? You're getting there in 2 years and you're prepared for it, right? You're not overwhelmed by it. So the goal is, while we think about bringing folks into BLP, we want to retain every single person for Synchrony. We want to keep you for like 100 years, right? You guys are in Gen Z. We know that that's not going to be a reality. We're not going to keep everybody for 30 years. This isn't, the dark ages of old boomer mentality, right? So what we do on program and what we do with BLP is our goal is to create moments of acceleration. Our goal, our dream scenario, when we talk about a participant, if we bring them into our internship, is to convert them to full-time. We don't hire interns without the intention of converting to full-time. We don't hire externs without the intention of maybe bringing them in for our internship, right? So we're always talking about conversion. But when we bring someone on full-time into BLP, they spend 2 years. Our goal is, once they start that 2-year rotational program, within 5 years, 2 years on program, 3 years off program, they're a vice president in their organization. That typically, off the street, takes 10 years to get to. We want to do it in 5. So the goal truly is acceleration. And to Luis's point, when you're on program, I like to say you get like a stamp on your forehead that says BLP, right? You get carte blanche access to meet with senior leaders and all that, and doors open for you, right? And the more advantage you take while you're on program, I think the most successful BLPs I've ever worked with take advantage of that. So when they're off program, at least to your point, it's still easy to have those conversations with senior leaders. It's still easy to get in their door when other employees haven't had that same level of access that you're going to get when you talk about being on the program. So I talk about career development and progression, especially in early careers at Synchrony. That's how we think about it. While we want to retain you and keep you, we know that our folks that are going to accelerate really fast, get to VP jobs and have multiple vice president jobs in 5-10 years, they're going to get really big roles in the organization. They're going to get really big pay bumps in the organization. It really allows them to have a career here and not need to jump around to all different organizations early on in their career. So hopefully that adds a little bit of context and color to career progression, which I know we wanted to cover. All right. What I want to do is, we've got about 10 minutes left. I have the question here, what the recruitment process looks like. So I'm going to share my screen really quickly. I promise, just for another minute or two, as we're talking about kind of what's next for our campus, for our fall, for Synchrony. Other questions, thoughts, things you want to know about being a great candidate, throw them in the chat. We're going to try to cover as much as we can, but I do want to give you some next steps and what's next, just in case we've piqued your interest, or you might be interested in looking into Synchrony a little bit further. So for us, The process is really robust. We're starting today. We're doing some virtual activities with y'all during Way Up. We've got a ton available. So our website, we're going to have a lot of virtual weekly sessions. We're going to drop a lot of recordings onto our website. If you want to learn more about us, starting next week, there's going to be so much content in our new website that is launching where you're going to be able to learn about us, learn about all these different functions. As I mentioned, we have 10 unique functions. Starting on the 15th, each one of our functional BLPs. So as you mentioned, you see 3 different groups here. You got a marketing, a sales, and one-off program. We're going to have all of our functions do some recordings talking about what they do, what kind of projects they work on. So you get some real life conversations, all virtual on demand on our website. We'll also have some live sessions, how to be kind to yourself in your career search, overcoming imposter syndrome, diversity network roundtable. So if you're interested in learning more about us, we're going to have a ton of virtual content. No matter what university you go to in the country, we have that available for you. That's all going to be posted on our website, synchronyuniversity.com. But if you want to apply, we've got a Way Up application. So if you're here, we have a Way Up page. You can apply through Way Up. It's going to take you to synchronyuniversity.com. We're going to have you formally apply in our system. So if you're interested in applying, we encourage you, start applying, because the sooner you apply, the sooner we get to see your name, your resume, get to know you, start having conversations with you. It's really important. We do have an on-campus presence at a lot of major universities across the country. So if we're on your campus or on your Handshake page, go find us, apply, engage in our events, come meet us at career fairs. We want to start to Brett, Luis, and Sydney's point. I think you heard a lot about networking, building connections, making relationships. That's the best thing you can do, whether that's virtually and you're doing that on campus, with people that are there, or if you don't go to one of our core campuses, if we're not on your Handshake, connect with us on Way Up, send us a message. Definitely make sure you stay in touch with us, because we are going to be kind of on a rolling basis, engaging and getting candidates through the process. It starts as soon as today. So if you're meeting us for the first time and we've piqued your interest, definitely taking a peek on our website, getting to know a little bit more about us, applying, and then reaching out. As you start, whether you're on campus or virtually, typically about 2 to 3 weeks from start to finish. If we meet you and start having conversations, doing some interviews, we're pretty, I would say all of our interviewers are like teddy bears. They're just the best kind of people that you want to meet and have fun with and just engage with. So nothing super intimidating, typically 2 or 3 interviews tops in the process. So not a crazy intensive long process. We try to make it painless. We work with your schedule to try to make sure that we can connect with you throughout the process. And as I mentioned, synchronyuniversity.com. That's your number one place to go for everything. It's also a place to go to apply, learn about all of our jobs, all of our areas, all of the different things that you can learn. If you're not quite sure, that website will have a ton of information, but send us a note, network with us, connect with us on LinkedIn. We can definitely fill in any gaps you may have in terms of the interview process, the application process, or where you might be a fit in the organization. So I promised I wasn't going to take long. If you need an email address and you want to email us, blpcampusteam@syf.com is our global inbox for anything. So feel free to reach out there. For some reason, my slides keep moving. I apologize for that. But blpcampusteam@syf.com. I'll leave that up for just a moment, just to make sure if anybody wants to write that down. And that's our process. So I'm going to click done on that question. And then one question, may I ask how resumes are processed? Does a robot scan the resume first? No, we are not a robot company. We do not rely on AI or anything like that. You have real people that get to know you. So if you apply on Way Up, you apply through our website, you apply on Handshake, we are going to be reviewing resumes. You have a recruiter, myself, or someone on our team looking at you individually, scoping through resumes, getting to know you, reaching out to you. So there's no robots, no AI, no anything like that as we think about our process. Any other questions? I see one from Alyssa. We've got about 5 minutes, so I'm going to let Alyssa's question come out here. We're going to answer it live. It's so for Brett, Luis, and Sydney. You have meaningful projects that you've worked on and you've spoke about. What is your favorite project that you've gotten to work on that you've had since you've started working with Synchrony? So we'll go around the horn if anybody has something off the top, and then we'll have all 3 of you answer real quick.
Yeah, I'll kick us off with a project that I really have enjoyed working on. I've had multiple projects that have been a lot of fun, but a project that I'm currently working on, actually Sydney and I are working on a team together through one of our diversity networks, where we get to innovate different business ideas and business opportunities to bring back to our executive leadership team. So that's been extremely fun to connect with my peers on different things about how we think about our shopping experience, right? When we walk into a grocery store, when we walk into anywhere, how we think about shopping and what shopping will look like 5 years down the road. Or, you know, just that project alone has been a lot of fun, just because, like, once again, just to touch on the creativity and the innovation that's required, you know, to work here at Synchrony is just, it's a challenge, but it's also the fun part about it is that, you know, we get to, like I said, sit amongst our peers and think about projects and products and things that we'll be able to put our hands on. And then on top of that, to be able to share those ideas at the highest level, you know, of the company is extremely unique. And especially for a Fortune 500 company to be able to have such close engagement with executive leadership, not only getting to know one another, but also being able to have the opportunity to pitch out some ideas that we think could really impact the business in a positive way. So that's something that we're currently working on right now. We're able to meet with our CEO for that project once, and we'll probably be meeting with him again pretty soon here just to kind of wrap that up. But that's been probably my favorite project I've worked on up to this point. Full creative freedom, you know, full innovative freedom. So that's been a lot of fun for me.
I guess I'll go. So I got the opportunity to work with Brett on that project. So it's definitely such a fun opportunity that we both had through our diversity network to be able to be a part of the Innovates group that we're in. So I think I would say that's one meaningful project that I have been a part of that I do love. But I would say in my actual rotation, I would say my favorite project that I've been working on is my current project, which is designing our New York City hub space. So I'm a part of the team that is actually designing that new hub space. More specifically, I'm a part of the team that is curating a team of ambassadors to have at Synchrony that would be, you know, people there to like lead people through the hub, our design space. So the LED touch tables, being a part of that entire process, seeing it really happen from like the ground up, actually from the ground up. So walking into the hub and seeing dust everywhere and just dirt, and like a few weeks later, everything being built out. So I think it's so amazing seeing that something that we did work on, like all of our designs, everything that we spent so long working on actually coming to life has been something that's been super meaningful to me being a part of that project. So yeah, that's mine.
Awesome.
And I'd say my favorite project is also now in my current rotation. I mean, not rotation, now in my current role. It's hard to transition from BLP to off program. But, you know, now being on the partner integration team, as I mentioned earlier, it's kind of focused on, you know, how is Synchrony expanding, you know, our product distribution through different, you know, third-party partners. So it's, you know, different fintechs and, you know, different POS systems and companies that already have their products built out. But how do we integrate our Synchrony credit products with them to just, you know, increase our organic product distribution? So what I'm pretty excited about right now is it's called Skipify. So it's a one-touch checkout solution. So we've been in talks, and it's really cool where Skipify has, you know, they're startup. So they have a really small team of like, I think it's like 10 to 15 people. So we're always on calls with their CEO, and, you know, we're just talking about what does the new, you know, that shopping experience look like? How are we going to able to integrate Skipify with some of our current partners, such as, you know, TJ Maxx or JCPenney? So it's a pretty cool product where it's, say, for example, you're shopping on TJ Maxx, it has a Skipify option. You enter your email and it pulls up, say, your TJ Maxx Synchrony card. So then it has it auto-filled where you want to ship it to, and then you just click checkout and it automatically purchases it. So you can purchase from the website. They have like interactive emails that you can purchase items right from the email. So it's a pretty cool product, and it's really cool just kind of leading you know, those talks and discussions with the Skipify team, and, you know, working with our tech teams on our side to just really kind of build out that integration. So I'd say that's been my favorite one so far, just because it's just how innovative it is and how new and exciting, and just the visibility we're having within the organization.
Awesome. Thank y'all. So we're right up at 6:30. We're at time. I put a final call for a question. I think we might have tapped all of our questions. So I want to end where we started and just thank all of you. You know, we know that with campus starting up and all of the things going on, there's definitely a lot of priorities, and to spend some time with us tonight, we have the honor and the privilege to be with you. We thank you for that time. I will quickly, one last time, just share so y'all remember, we've got tons of opportunities available for you, whether you're a sophomore, a junior, a senior, even if you're a freshman and you want to start having the conversation with us, please do not hesitate to reach out. We are here to help you. Feel free to connect with us on LinkedIn. As I mentioned on the back end, we do have a campus recruiting inbox. If you've got any other questions, anything we might not have had a chance to answer, feel free to reach out to us and let us know. But thank you all again so much for your time. For my panelists, Brett, Luis, Sydney, you are amazing. You guys are rock stars of our program, and we definitely appreciate having you on tonight and hopefully giving some insights to some future BLP leaders or just future leaders that are going to go out and spread their rings out in the world. So thank you for your advice, your guidance, and your time tonight. Thanks, everyone. We had a great time, and we'll hopefully see you all soon.